Hello, and thank you for taking the time to watch another brief video. Today, we're going to talk about real estate and the most important part. Okay, in my opinion, the purchase or the acquisition of the land is where your project is made or broken. Okay, so today, what we're going to talk about is how I start my land search. So I have realtor.com up. This is probably my go-to. This and Zillow are my go-to sites for finding houses. I come over here and I search. As you can see, there's different ways you can sort here. I sort by the lowest price. Okay, so the first and most important thing when building is to define your objective. Okay, so I in this example, I'm gonna talk like I'm doing one of my spec homes, right? So I'm gonna educate you guys as to how I would look for a spec home lot and give you some breakdowns as to what I look for and then maybe how that could help you look. But again, the most important part is to define your target. So if your target is to build a nightly rental and there's something in your market, there's a geographic location in your market that would allow that nightly rental to go smoother, you need to focus only on that specific kind of property. Today, let's just take a wide array of a bunch of different things, and I can kind of talk you through kind of how I think when I'm looking through different parcels of land. So if I was looking for myself for another spec house lot or listing, I am currently in the process of kind of doing that for two markets. So one in my area would be the lower end market, which is going to be a house value, a sale price of 250 to 350. And the other market would be a sale price of probably more in the range of, I would say at the low end 350, but probably 400 to 500. Okay, so let's just take a peek over here and look and see what we got going on currently listed. Okay, so this property right here, these two properties right here would be good listings for me if I was looking at the lower end. Okay, so let's look here. We got two lots here. Okay, so they're highlighted here in red. As you can see, here's one and here's a second one. So for $44,500, you're getting 3.33 acres, which is a lot, honestly. A lot in my area is somewhere between a quarter acre and an acre. I'd say an acre on the high side. It's really a quarter acre and a half acre. So this being 3.33 acres is a pretty good deal. Obviously, this chunk's a lot bigger than this chunk. 3 acres, and you need to know your county code, but 3 acres in my county could be divided. If this was 1 3-acre chunk, this could be divided into 3 1-acre chunks, as long as you have the proper amount of road frontage. Here, I don't know if this one single lot could be redivided again and make this into 2. Either way, let's just focus on the property as it is. But that's a key part of what I would look at when assessing what to buy and what not to buy. So in this property, it's $44,500. If this, I'm sure can't be subdivided, but if this one could be subdivided, so, if this could be subdivided again and you could get 2 lots out of this, maybe by going to a variance or whatever, then, you're really looking at a very attractive per lot price. Now, right now, we're looking at about $22,000 per lot. This lot here, the bigger one, is not going to give you that much more value than this one here. So these lots are going to be about equally valued in a sale perspective, in my opinion, in my local market. So in other words, selling a lot in a house that's 2 acres versus selling a lot in a house that's 1 acre, you're not going to get much difference in price. So how I would assess this is you got $22,000-ish per lot. And then you need to think about, okay, are these city lots? Are these non-city lots? In my town, a non-city lot adds at least $20,000 to the price of the lot over and above what a city lot does. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is water. You got to have a well, and a well here is $7,500 to $10,000. The second thing you got to have if you're out in the country is sewer. You either got to have a mound system or you got to tie into our city or our county sewer. In this lot's case, you can't do a mound system, so you're going to get stuck tying into our city sewer. That costs $20,000 roughly right now by the time you get all the contractors and tanks and pumps and all the crap you need in there. Might be a little bit less, but let's just assume lot needs to have, let's say, $30,000 in utilities in the city. That would probably be down around 10. So this lot is going to have somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 in additional cost over and above what a city lot would cost. So you got to factor that into account. Those are hard costs that you can't get away from if you're going to build. Your utilities are just part of the process. I would look on these lots. I already know where these lots are. I know there's no city, or I know there's no addition here. That's the nice thing about buying land out in the country. You're not going to have any homeowners association or any fees. There's not going to be any restrictions here about what you can build most of the time. You'd want to check with the realtor that has these listed because they could help you with that. And I would always use your own realtor. Okay. My friend has this listed. It's a good listing. In this case, if I was buying these, I might go to him, but I might not. I would suggest that you use your own realtor. Okay. You're not paying more to take a realtor to a property that's listed with a realtor. So get that out of your mind if that's ever been there. Here's another one that I would look at. Bare lot. You got 2 acres. That's a lot. Okay. So maybe that could be divided in 2. If not, for my area here locally, $58,000 in the condition that this is in looks like, for me, too expensive to do my starter home. Okay, those starter home lots need to be somewhere in my market under $25,000. If I'm going to get into that second tier home, this could be an option for that. If I look at what's around it, it doesn't look like the best option for a second tier home because of what's around it. If you look here, these homes do not look very, they don't look huge. So if I go putting up a 2,000 to 2,500 square foot brand new place on this cul-de-sac, I'm definitely going to be the nicest house on the block. And that's not a good place to be. Okay. It's not bad. In other words, most of my city builds, I've been the nicest house on the block and they've sold fine and it's been fine. But you got to remember that is a starter home. This would be a second tier home. It would be the $400,000 to $500,000 house because of the fact that the lot costs so much. Okay. When you go try and spend $50,000 to $100,000 on a lot and you're trying to sell the property for $300,000, that ain't going to work. Okay. Unless your county allowed you to build a 500 square foot house, which that's not that smart anyways, because it's probably not all that sellable. But it gives you an example, $58,000 with the houses around there. I would have no interest in that. Again, a little bit more, scroll down here. We're looking at, let's see, 68,000, 75,000. Those are too expensive. I don't really care what size they are. 80,000. Again, too expensive, probably too expensive, 80,000 for either one of those 2 style homes, but it's at least something to consider. Here's another one that I want to look at. Okay. This is 11.37 acres. Okay. So on this one, you really have to think about it and crunch the numbers. For me, I like to do this with cash, right? So I like to do this with money that I have. If I'm going to spend $135,000 just on the lot, I'm going to struggle to finance my entire project. So that's something to consider. If I did this project or bought this, I would be looking at trying to either get a partner or to, figure out a way to do it without having a ton out of my pocket. Look here, you can see the whole project. This is an interesting one. Okay, so you got $135,000. This out here is an interstate. So this right here would be a pad that you could use for like a billboard or some marketing type venture that's going to be prime frontage on a big advertising area. 69 is an interstate that runs through this town that gets a lot of commerce and not local commerce. So it gets a lot of traffic. But here's another picture of it. You can see 69. You can see some of the lakes that we have in our area. This lot doesn't have any lakes in it, or on it, or access to it, but it just gives you a good graphic depiction. So this is 11 acres. You're going to have some land out here, and you're going to have some building lots that are going to be up here closer to this road. I don't know the exact configuration of this, but the last time I think I looked at it, it was about 5 buildable lots. So, if you can get 5 buildable lots for $125,000, divide that out, do the math. It's about $25,000 per lot. That's not that bad. Okay. So this would be something worth considering. Now, the things that you need to remember, or I would want to remember if I was doing this lot, is it city or is it not city? That makes a massive difference for your infrastructure cost. Again, your well and your septic, right? So those are big deals that you need to take into account. How much cost are you going to have to get this up to a point where you could put a house on it? Let's think. The taxes are something to consider on this. The availability to getting to this lot out here at the road, or out here at 69, this higher traffic area, would be of concern to me. This county has changed its rules on signage. That would be something to think about with me. You got to know your local codes if you're going to build on an investment property and try to do something creative. That is vitally important. If you were going to build a house on this, you'd want to balance out, okay, do I want a house right next to a billboard? Do I want to manage a billboard in my backyard? A billboard is one of those things that might not be that big of a deal to manage. They're fairly low key. They're fairly easy to do. I haven't done one, but you can either hire that done or you could do it yourself. It's probably not that hard. The permits are going to be your hardest part on doing a project like that. Let's see here. I don't see anything else worthy of noting. One thing I'd say, I have a project going right now that is of interest, and it has less than 1 acre and has the ability to fit 2 things on it. Okay, so that's something else that I would consider keeping in the back of your mind and looking at. Can you fit a project on each lot that you build, or can you fit 2? So the one that I have I currently own, it's a vacated foundation, which I will put a house on, and then next to that, I'm not going to add to the foundation. I'm basically just going to build on the foundation and add 1 wall to finish it off. Next to that, I would be able to put up some sort of a garage facility. Okay. So for me, where that property is, its condition, what you can do with it, it's actually has some lake frontage. So for me, having a big enough parcel of land that I can build a house on the foundation and then also build a garage or some sort of a storage facility at the same site, that's very attractive. Okay, those could be rented together. Those could be rented separate. That could be used for storage. That could be, there's a whole wide array of things that you could do with that. Okay, so this is just another city that's really close to me. You can see here is a $10,000 lot. Okay, so on this, I'd want to assess, where is it? What is it? What size is it? So I don't know this exact location, but I think it's one of the local kind of trailer park oriented lots that we have, which is going to pose a problem just from the details of how big it is. So right here, it says it's 45 by 90. It's in Buena Vista, which is a trailer park, kind of like somewhat community, but 45 by 90. This is a cheap lot, but could I put a house on a 45 by 90 lot? You can't build on all 45 by 90 feet. Okay. You need to know your current county codes and ordinances. But in this county, you got 90 feet deep. I think it's 25 feet off the road, 20 feet off the back. So you take 45 feet off that 90, you're down to 45 feet of depth that you can put on here. You look at the sides, you got 45. I think it's 5 on each side. So you're down around 35 there. So you're at 35 by 45 is your buildable area. In my area, you're probably not going to get both a garage and a house on there. So this is going to be for me, it would be something outside of my normal build. What my normal build in my area would be is kind of a house with an attached garage. On this lot, the price is right, but you're not going to get that. And this is also out in the country. So you're going to end up having to spend 7,500 to 10 grand on a well, and you're going to end up having to spend your 20 grand, 15 to 20 grand on your sewer. Okay. So this lot is nice. It's attractive. It's in a decent area. The price is right. It might work. To me, I would probably want a double lot in that addition to make that fit where I would want to end up. I know because of others that have built in that current subdivision, I know that the market is okay. Like I know it's a trailer park, but I know the market in there would still justify a sale in a a starter oriented home. There's one that recently sold and it ended up nice. There's a lot of new houses going in this area. You got to know your local market. So you'd have to drive over here. You'd have to look, study this area, study whether or not it fits the buyer that you're trying to attract for this house. Okay. There's no way you could put a $400,000 to $500,000 house on this lot. Absolutely not going to happen. But could you put a starter house here? Yes. So again, you got to know your market. You got to know who you're building for each project. And then you have to tailor your land purchase around what you're trying to accomplish. Okay. Here are some other lots in my local area. These are all attractive. These, you'd have to know this. The only reason I know this is from personal experience and knowing this area. But Harbor Cove is a nice area. The sewer is actually discounted there. They have a relationship already established with a sewer provider up in this neck of the woods that would vastly cut that down. I think here you'd have a well, so you're going to have 10 grand in that. And I think your sewer is going to be closer to $5,000 to $10,000. Okay. So to me, these parcels in Harbor Cove, I know the owner of Harbor Cove and he already stiffed me. I had kind of a handshake agreement with him many years ago and stiffed me on giving back some down payment money. So not a huge fan of the owner of these, so I would kind of discount them a little bit myself. But in reality, that's stupid to do because that's just an emotional based decision that I'm making. If I got down to it and I was looking for land and I was looking for my next project, I would still buy these. I don't care if the guy stole $1,000 from me. It's really not that big of a deal in the big picture of life. But these are attractive. So, you're talking $40,000 here by the time you factor in a well. That's not a bad price in my area. You find a good lot, hopefully it's level, and you could go to town on that. And that's going to be this is an attractive area. It's not in a trailer park. It's got size for it. This tract is not 9.5 acres, but most of these lots in here are going to be modest size, half an acre roughly, something like that. They're nice. They're fairly flat. You don't have a lot of hills to worry about. You don't have a lot of low spots to worry about. You don't have bad soil to worry about. Again, you just have to go out and drive it to learn all this stuff and study up on it. I know my local market, which is another thing that I would suggest you doing. Stay in a market that you know well. Don't venture out an hour away from your house and think that you're going to have a fun time building a spec house. It's too far away. Okay. You don't want to be driving that far. Okay. So let's look here. If this isn't, but let's say this lot had lake frontage. Okay. If this lot had lake frontage, this would be a great property, or even deeded lake access. This would be a great property for me to consider to put up a $400,000 to $500,000 house. Okay, this does not have lake access, but if this had lake access, $90,000, again, it's out in the country, so we're talking about adding 10 to it for the well, adding 15 to it for the sewer. But this would be attractive if you could hit that second tier of a market. And probably, for me, it would have to have some other attractive part of what you're getting here. Maybe it's a big chunk of ground. Maybe it comes with a barn lot. Maybe it comes with deeded lake access. Maybe it comes with something else. If it doesn't, you just have to weigh it out. For me, in my market, if this doesn't come with anything, I'm not all that interested in it. But if it would, that would be very attractive. I don't see anything else. This is another one. I don't know this chunk of ground very well, but you got 15 acres here for 150. Okay, just off the cuff math, you're looking at $10,000 an acre if you would be able to develop this and do something with it. I don't think it's that type of ground. I think it's more hunting ground by looking here, and I've read the description of this. I don't think this is going to be somewhere where you could develop, 10 lots on this. However, if you could look at this and say, hey, there's road frontage that you can see here, we could at least put houses on the road front and then do something else with this backland, that might be attractive, right? So when you're looking at property, you need to constantly be assessing, what are my objectives? What am I going to do with this piece of land? And then tailor your searching and your guidance around what your objectives are. And think about the county, think about your expenses, think about the rules and regulations that you have. Most importantly, think about who you're trying to target the house to sell to. All these things are vitally important. I've rambled a little bit towards the end of this, but bottom line, this is a really fun process, but buying the land right will, in my opinion, determine the success of your project. If you overpay for your land in the beginning, your project is going to be riddled with problems all the way through. If you underpay for your land and you study up and you know that you don't have issues, you're going to be happy all the way through. Because at the end of the day, if you have a couple of screw ups on your build, which honestly, you probably will, if you have a couple screw ups, you can build those into the cost of that project and not have to worry about it. If I have to spend, and if I get a lot $10,000 below market, or I find some way to add value to the purchase that's kind of outside of the box, maybe you can put 2 properties on it, maybe you can divide it, whatever. You can offset some of your mess ups, some of the things that you can't plan for when building, which they inevitably occur in almost every project. So hope this was helpful. Have a good day and talk to you soon.